You have a very strong work ethic, which is obviously shown through your production history and now moving into your own baby, Hip Hop is for Lovers. Tell us a little bit about that, how that got started, you know, where you came up with that in mind, because that's something that's very unique in the music industry. Not that people don't talk about lovers kind of music or the chick songs or whatever in hip hop, but to make that a focus in essence and talk about sex, love, and intimacy.
I'm an avid hip hop listener. I really love hip hop. Like I have very vivid memories of being hypnotized by Rakim's lips in the video Paid in Full. Like I just remember being like, oh my god, who's this man? Anyway, and being a person who listens to hip hop, I find it intricately in my life. It shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I'm a child of that culture. And hanging out with some women, a friend of mine brought me somewhere, and it's like a women's group, and we were all talking about sex and, you know, getting the mood and things like that. And they were naming songs like, yeah, girl, I put on this Maxwell album, or, you know, I put on some LSG and I was body rolling. And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, girl, because I listen to Mos Def. And it was like record scratch. What? What? Mos Def. And I'm like, yeah, you know, panties.
The panties, of course.
I'm like, yeah, like Ghostface, you know, Wu-Tang ice cream milk, bitch. You know, ice cold bitches melt down within my clutch. And they're like, what? That turns you on? And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, it makes me feel sexy. You know, that's what it is.
Right.
And I thought about how people don't kind of connect sex, love, and intimacy with hip-hop, and it's really a lot of what hip-hop talks about.
Right.
You know, a lot of people have this kind of one kind of sided idea that hip-hop is, you know, it's a posturing, it's gangster, it's aggressive, it's this, and I'm like, well, no, because people aren't just aggressive. People have love, people have all these different experiences, and most artists have a reason to express this in their art in some form or another. So at first it started out as just a Tumblr where I was doing, you know, hip hop is for lovers, and I would put up these posts, like I did Sex for the Sport of It, I did Foxy Brown, Get Me Home, I did Method Man, I'll Be There For You, and it was just on a Tumblr blog. And then a DJ friend of mine was like, why don't you make it a mixtape? And he was like, you know, let people download it. And I was like, oh, okay, we can do a mixtape. And I don't know shit about doing a mixtape. So I was like, well, you know, talking to other people, I was like, do you think it could be a radio show? Like a radio. And I met Lene, who was my co-host. Hey, girl. And talked to her about it, and she was on board to come. And we did some podcasts in June and July. We shot it July 4th because there were some horrible kids throwing fireworks off my roof, and it was just that weird experience. But that's how I knew it was 4th of July. We recorded like 4 podcasts, and I sat on them because I was so nervous, and waited until like September, and then I released them, and people loved them. Like, they got downloaded all over the world.
Right.
They got downloaded in Japan, Ireland, England, the UK. I was just like, whoa, like, you know, people really kind of like this idea of putting sex, love, and intimacy to hip hop.
Right.
And yeah, it's been a journey. I really feel like it's I really feel like we've grown from when we first started, and it's become bigger than I thought it could ever be.
Right. So now so it's been popular now, and you've developed this large following for the last year, maybe a little bit more, and you've been able to branch out into, like, expand Hip Hop is for Lovers.
Yeah, so we did the website a few times. We did the website, and we went to a live format.
Right.
Where we broadcast every Wednesday, because, you know, doing a podcast, you go on, you start strong, and then it fades.
Right.
So we started on Spreaker.com, and we were broadcasting every Wednesday, and people were asking me if I'm going to add more shows, and I was like, more shows, And I was like, well, I guess we could, you know, like, I have a lot of friends in the LGBT community, and I have a lot of friends in the LGBT community that do hip-hop, that make music.
Right.
So I was like, well, I think that would be the necessary step, because I like to think of myself as all-inclusive. So I don't want to exclude one community, especially when this community is notorious for being excluded in hip-hop.
Right.
So I approached XD about doing a show, and so now he has the XD experience on Hip Hop is for Lovers, and the show is every Thursday. And we wanted to, because Hip Hop is for Lovers, the way I think about Hip Hop is for Lovers, because I think that what you have now are hip hop parents, right? You have parents that they grew up completely in hip hop culture, and they're having children that are now completely raised in hip hop culture. So everybody has this experience with hip hop. And I lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going with that.
But you want to be able to preserve something for the children.
Well, you want to be able to, you know, like the LGBT community enjoys hip hop just like everybody else does.
Right.
So you want to be able to have people experience, you know, you want to be able to talk to everybody.
Right.
As far as what hip hop represents in sex, love, and intimacy.
Right.
I think that answers that question.
Okay. So delving into sex, love, and intimacy, just for the people who don't really know, like, give a few examples of a couple of songs, and other than LL Cool J, so that people can understand, like, it's not just LL Cool J. He is not the only one who talks about sex, love, and intimacy or banging it out.
Wow. I tell people, like, Mos Def did a song called You Are the One. And that song is about his divorce. And we know, well, sorry, Yasin Bey.
Right.
My bad, Mos. Be good. Yasin Bey, or the artist formerly known as Mos Def, did a song called You Are the One, and it's a very passionate song about, you know, a breakup. It's about the ending of his marriage, you know. You have Nas, who just did Bye Baby, and that we know is about his relationship with the police. And these are things that adults are going through. It's not like puppy love. It's not like, oh, you know, come twerk something for me. You know, it's not like that. This is nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with twerking, because I'm an avid twerker. But this is a real life, you know, kind of issue. It's a real life experience, and the music that you grew up with should be able to cater to the experience that you have. You know, so Nas is Bye Baby, and You Are the One, and, you know, Don Will from Tanya Morgan has a song called Laura Song, and that's all about it's all about, you know, a woman that he was, you know, that essentially broke his heart. And then you have songs like the LL Cool J's, or you know, Guilty Simpson, who has a song called, which is one of my favorite songs, called Kinda Live. And it's all about a woman that's like, you know, you're just kind of cool, and I love you for who you are. I love the way you are to me.
Right.
And that is an adult experience, and we should be able to celebrate that kind of music. That music should not be hard for us to find, and it's not played on the radio often, but it doesn't mean that we're not experiencing that in a part of hip-hop culture.
I think through Hip Hop is for Lovers, you have definitely seemed to find a way to make the intimacy and the sex and the relationships and all that stuff a little bit more relatable. I mean, especially since it's something that a lot of people aren't talking about, or you have to buy the album in order to hear those songs. So I think you're doing an amazing job with what Hip Hop is for Lovers definitely represents. And I think it's a true reflection of who you are also, because you are such a hip hop head. And for a woman, that's dope, you know, which is crazy, because a lot of people feel like there aren't a lot of women who listen to hip hop.
And you would actually be surprised. I always tell people that hip hop went through this weird kind of phase where a lot of people were ashamed to say that they listened to hip hop, or that it was a part of their culture, because of what it looked like to other people. Like, you didn't want to say, oh, I you know, like, oh, yeah, well, I still listen to hip hop. And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with hip hop? Like, do you understand what hip hop has provided the world? Not even just our culture. What has provided the world? There's a hip hop culture in Jakarta, Indonesia. Like, there's a culture of it. And you know, if you can have, you know, South American artists winning Grammys in hip hop.
Right.
Like this, it's not what it's given to us, it's what is given to the world. It's a universal culture, and we have to respect it as that.
Right.
And every culture every culture has some things that we may not like about it. You know, some people have a problem with the stripper culture and or the misogyny, or you know, whatever it is that you feel like this part of hip hop represents. It tugs something at what you think is proper,
right?
You know, but at the same time, I think that, you know, it has taught us, it has been there for us, just like our parents had Motown and
right.
and the My Girls and all the other stuff. We have the, you know, the Ghostface, Stapleton sex.
Hello.
You know,
hello.
We have that. You know, that is us. That is that for us. So.
Well, I think that's amazing. So talk to me. You're in the midst of a campaign.
Yes.
Trying to raise funds for Hip Hop is for Lovers so that you could spread the message a little bit more. Talk a little bit about that and where people can go and why you decided to pursue a campaign.
Well, Hip Hop is for Lovers, I've been supporting it. It's my child's, granted, you know.
That's your baby.
It's my baby.
That's your baby.
But baby want to get up and go to college. You know. Essentially. But the expanding of Hip Hop is for Lovers and thinking about where it could go, I just didn't have the financial resources to provide everything that I thought it could do.
Right.
Last year, me and my co-host Lene, we taught a class called Navigating and Negotiating Intimacy to Teenagers. And this is teenagers that, you know, I always tell people hip hop has a semantic. Usually you can go somewhere or you can be in your office. If you're at work, you can identify the person who listens to hip hop because they have a certain way of carrying themselves. It's not even a dress. I remember, it's not even the way they dress. I remember being at my job and my CFO at the time, phone rang and it was more money, more problems.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because he's, you know, chief financial officer, and then his phone rings and it's like, give me girl, pay it please. And I was like, is that money, more money, more problems? And he's like, yeah. And he's like this little short Filipino man, you know.
Right.
And it was like, what? You know, like you have, like, getting back to hip hop parenting, you have these children who grow up with hip hop, like he clearly grew up with hip hop.
Right.
But then you have parents whose parents didn't know how to talk to them about sex, love, and intimacy. So we use the language and the semantic of hip hop to teach children about consent.
I think that's
to teach them about their boundaries and what they can expect from sexual experiences that are based on their own expectations, what they choose, and using the way we talk and using hip hop music to teach them that. And it was a big success. Like, people were like, oh my God, we need this for adults. When are y'all going to teach the class again? And we got invited back by the Black Girl Project to come in teach the class again. So we're doing adults and children this time. And we want to expand that. I think that it's something that other parents and other adults would enjoy, being able to talk about navigating and negotiating intimacy in a language that they understand.
Right.
Other things that we want to do with Hip Hop is for Lovers, you know, like, we want to expand the network. We want to be able to provide a class that talks about, not a class, but a show that talks about parenting. Because you have people who are hip hop parents. You have people who, you know, whose children dress a certain way and they understand it and don't have a problem with it.
Right.
You know, their children talk a certain way and they get it because they grew up in hip hop, and their children grew up listening to The Blueprint, and The Blueprint is what, or Nas' Illmatic, and that is what their classic album is. It's not a Marvin Gaye, it's a Nas now.
Right.
And having those parents have a resource, someone that they can come and say, look, I don't know what the fuck to say to my child, you know, you know, like, I want to be able to talk to them about, you know, education or, you know, smarts. Like, recently there's a song that came out called Hot Cheetos and Takis, or Takis, or whatever, some kind of snack that I don't eat. And it's a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And it's an organization that teaches sentence structure using hip hop.
Wow.
Right?
That's pretty dope. But you wouldn't think that, though.
Because you wouldn't think that, and it's all about children. It's a organization that's teaching children that how to use hip hop to teach sentence structure and cadence and things like that, and how to use it to learn stuff about themselves. You have, you know, I had told my homegirl she had a baby, and I sent her a link to this musician who had made 808s and heartbreaks into lullabies.
Oh my God.
So, you know, you hear amazing and sounding like a lullaby, and it's like, holy crap, like this is how big hip hop has become.
Right.
Where it is something that our children are now listening to. One day, if you guys, you know, out there on the Couch Sessions website, go Google baby stops crying when they play.
I've seen that video.
Like, this is who we are now. So, a matter of fact, it was Biggie. It was Biggie.
It was Biggie, yeah.
It was Biggie. Baby stops crying when they play Biggie. And, you know, like, that kind of thing is like, you know, clearly this child has some kind of emotional, like, listening to it, it does something for them.
Right.
So, I feel like hip-hop is for lovers could be the kind of facilitator of all these things, because I recognize where hip-hop culture is showing up for me. It shows up every day in my life. So, yeah. Did I go off tangent? I might have went off tangent on
That's
that.
Okay. But everything that you said was good stuff. Everything you said was good.
So our Indiegogo campaign has to, we need funds to support ourselves.
Right.
And I want merchandise. People, we have these little taglines that we say on Hip Hop is for Lovers. If you listen to a show, you know, we have a tendency to call like certain artists good guy faulty. You guys should listen to the Good Guy Faulty show. That
was a good one.
Or we have this thing called Consent is Sexy. Or, you know, No Bueno on the non-consensual anal. Because, no, wait, let me explain. We are very not safe for work, not safe maybe sometimes for life, but it's very explicit and it's very candid. So beware.
But I think that that's good though. So no filter, no filter.
Well, you can't really use hip-hop to talk about sex, love, and intimacy and not be very kind of candid.
Yeah.
You can't be like, ooh, you know, well, you know, when you're talking about the vagina, no, you have to say, no, when I'm talking about the pussy, you kind of have to talk like that. That's the language. That's a semantic.
Yeah.
That we understand. But we want to come out, people want these things on t-shirts. And I felt like, well, we can use the clothing and merchandise to facilitate us growing as a brand, growing as a radio, growing as a website. But you need money to kind of get those things off the ground. So that's why we did the Indiegogo campaign, because we want to provide navigating and negotiating workshops to teens for free. We don't want them to have to pay, their parents to have to pay. We want it to be like, oh, okay, well, this is a low-cost $20 workshop that you can come and you take, you know, 2 hours, and we talk to you about sex, love, and intimacy, you know, in a language that you understand.
Okay.
And that's what the Indiegogo campaign is about. And I've been doing Hip Hop is for Lovers full time for the past year. So, you know, unemployment ain't gonna last much longer, you know. And recently we found out Brooklyn is the #2 place to live that's most expensive.
Right.
So
help us out. help us out.
And we have really good perks, you know. If you know, you can be a lover, a flirt, a friend with benefits, a crushington.
I like those names. I think that name is kind of dope. Well, I wish you all the best and all the luck. I am a big supporter of Hip Hop is for Lovers, and I definitely donate, and I'm going to encourage other people to do it. I really, really wish that people would really see how amazing Hip Hop is for Lover is, and hip hop just in general, and how awesome you are, Uche. And I really, really do appreciate you for being such a good friend and just so awesome. And
oh God, I never get enough of hearing that. No, I'm just kidding. It makes me actually feel completely, you know, I just get real shy about that.
I know, but you deserve everything that comes your way. You really do. All the blessings. And so I wish you the best. Thank you so much for sitting with me in the couch sessions. And we are looking forward to what you have going on and what Hip Hop is for Lovers has coming up next.
All right, this is a nice couch for the couch session.
Thanks.